Hello, so let's take a look at how you can make a CSS mosaic. It's something really common that we see amongst websites, for example Pinterest and image sites. That's how they display a lot of images. So there's a lot of ways to do this, and the way I'm going to try and approach this is to actually use a div for an image rather than using a div like this and then nesting the image. They both have their drawbacks. So this is the nested one. Obviously you close the image tag, but that's nested, and we're gonna use another one because I think this technique is more flexible, and images just display more correctly, because it's always a challenge to display images correctly if you've ever tried. So let's get started. I hope. Okay, I guess Sublime doesn't have any. Oh, that's the wrong file. Yeah, I was curious why there wasn't any autocomplete or highlighting. You can call this a mosaic. It's also called masonry or whatever. So the way I like to start things off is actually you don't need this anymore, but it's actually just to find the structure of things. So it's pretty clear, I think, the structure. You just have a container and you have a couple of elements. Now you can do something cool, which something like that, but I forget the exact syntax, so I'm gonna have to do it this sort of old-fashioned way. And then make 5 of those. One more. Great, so now we have the structure of our page. So let's style this. You can start with the container. So obviously the display is going to be grid. So forgot to mention, but the way you would want to make a sort of mosaic is a grid, because it gives you a lot of flexibility on how you can display the images. There's a lot of other ways like flexbox, and actually I think column lists, I believe, but none of them give you as much flexibility. And the mosaic I'm going to show you is a little bit harder than sort of the ones you normally see, so you need that flexibility from CSS grid. So make it a grid, and I'm going to give it a max width, mainly because a lot of the time it's actually quite common for websites to just set a max width so that it doesn't look too bad when it extends on a large display. And this is especially important for images, because they're going to start getting pixelated on us if you have a SVG. And I'm going to set the grid template columns to 4. This is pretty arbitrary. It could be anything, it just depends on how you like to divide up your grid. So there's a handy function here, which it's the equivalent of just running it like this, but it's a little bit less verbose, I guess. And 1FR stands for a fractional unit, so that's just telling that CSS to give us 4 equal units, or whatever that may be. And the reason why we don't want to set a fixed one is because, unlike rows, we want it to be responsive, because normally you collapse sort of horizontally. So we can give that, and then we go min max. It doesn't matter, it can be whatever. So this just makes our sort of rows not too big, because if we let it go any size, it might take up the entire height, right, if we have a large image. So we want to sort of bound it between these two, and obviously we don't want it too small. So that's the grid, and obviously we won't see anything because we need to add the images to each div. So what we're going to do here is actually we'll make each div unique so that we can add the image backgrounds to it. So let's just add each image background. So background image URL, and you can see here I got 5 images, which I'm gonna just refer to, and we're gonna do this 5 times. And I guess there's a lot of ways to make this sort of cleaner. I guess if you're sort of a programmer, this might look really bad to you because you're kind of hard coding everything, but in some respects that's just sort of how CSS is as well. And it's fine.